Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A Black Texas woman shot 5 times when 2 female officers mistake her for an intruder. Wait until we show you this shocking video. You'll hear from the woman explain how she was totally stunned by what took place. It is an unbelievable video. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris gets attacked for a lot of reasons, but a Washington Post columnist says she is a major asset to President Joe Biden. We will talk with Jennifer Rubin about her particular piece. Also on today's show, Virginia continues to stymie Governor Glenn Youngkin over building a billion-dollar stadium for the Washington Capitals and Mystics. Robert Reich, former Labor Secretary, breaks down how sports stadiums screw the taxpayer. We're going to talk about that as well. Also, a young man is gifted $1,000 in tickets to the NBA All-Star Game in Indiana. It is a feel-good story, but I have a different perspective about our black boys aspiring to go to the NBA. Plus, Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson will join us with the founder of Young Warriors to talk about how their foundation is doing all they can to prepare young men for adulthood. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, what is going on with Texas cops firing their guns into homes? I saw this video on social media, and it was absolutely stunning. This takes place in Harris County, where these officers believe they see an intruder in the home. The problem is, it was the homeowner. This video Again, I'm giving you a warning, a trigger warning, so you could turn away. But it is unbelievable. This took place February 3rd of this year. Watch.
I'm going to tell you, check a right check down.
Sheriff's office! Here, let's go.
Someone's coming.
Shots fired, shots fired.
All right, folks, so let me set this up. Deputies were investigating an alleged break-in. This took place at Eboni's friend's apartment, okay? So Eboni was at her friend's apartment. The cops got there. They saw the front window screen removed, broken glass, and the blinds raised near the front door. When Eboni heard the commotion, she grabbed her gun. Eboni sustained a total of 5 gunshot wounds to the leg and torso. She was not hit by any vital organs. Doctors say the long-term effects of her injuries are yet to be determined. Eboni says her life is now changed forever.
And I would like for them to not just be placed on administrative leave. I don't think they deserve to have badges. I don't think protocol was followed that night or morning. I have a baby, a beautiful baby girl. She knows that I'm not able to do the things I was able to do before. And I'm not able to be as attentive with my baby. She's only 1. So that's probably the hardest part. I started seeing holes in the walls as I was standing there. And then I realized there was something coming through the apartment. I thought it was something outside, but it was something coming from outside to inside. I see blood, not necessarily wounds. I see blood everywhere.
Eboni's attorney is Ben Crump. He said this absolutely is a perfect example of excessive force. The cops have been placed on administrative leave. I want to bring my panel right now. Michael Imhotep is host of the African History Network show. He comes to us out of Detroit. Mignon Guy, Associate Professor, Department of African American Studies, Virginia Commonwealth University out of Richmond, Virginia. Matt Manning, Civil Rights Attorney out of Corpus Christi. All right, Matt, I'm going to start with you. There's a lot for us to unpack here. And so let's go here first. The call is an attempted break-in. Cops arrive there, and they say they see screen window, broken glass. There we go. All right. I get it. Cops have a job to do. Here's the problem. They see someone moving on the inside. I don't recall, and I'm going to do this here. Guys, cue the video up, because I'm listening to hear, did they identify themselves before just totally unloading into the apartment? Roll the video.
I'm going to tell you, check a right check down.
Sheriff's office!
Here, let's go down that one a little bit.
Okay, so Matt, I'm reading from a story here, and this is what it says. At approximately 2:14 a.m., the first deputy arrived to the scene and cleared the apartment. There was no intruder located. A second deputy had arrived to assist, but before they left, a person living in a neighboring apartment flagged the deputies down and reported that someone had broken into another nearby apartment. That's where they discovered the front window had been removed, the glass was broken, the blinds were raised. This is a statement that the sheriff's department released when they released the video footage. And now, according to, Pouncy was a guest of the apartment. Again, investigators say Pouncy was a guest, quote, was a guest of the apartment resident, and that they had broken the window to get inside because they did not have a key with them. And so as you begin to look at this, and so what really jumps out here is I get the call. They say, according to the police officers, they say they see someone with a gun approaching the door. At no time in their statement do they say the weapon was pointed at them, the person was firing at them. We know Texas is a state where you don't even have to have concealed carry. You've got open carry. Your assessment of this shooting?
So I'll say, Roland, I think this is one of the worst shoots I've ever seen. I've watched thousands of hours of police video as a prosecutor, as a criminal defense attorney, and now as a civil rights attorney. I watch it all the time, and this is one of the absolute worst shoots I've ever seen. I will say what's really interesting about this is the way it's covered in the media, at least in the article that I read, does no justice to this video. What courts look at when someone is being accused of excessive force and in determining whether force is used appropriately comes from a Supreme Court case called Graham v. Connor. It has three factors, and those factors are basically the severity of the crime, whether the alleged suspect is an immediate threat, and whether they're actively resisting or trying to flee. So if you look at this from that basic legal framework, first, they don't even know that there's a crime. And the fact that, the police were investigating a potential break-in doesn't mean they get to unload on someone. And I'm sure you saw this, but one of the biggest facts here is not only did they unload the clip, that officer reloaded her weapon to continue shooting. So, even if there's an argument that one bullet might be justified force, which I don't think it is under this circumstance, shooting an entire clip's worth and then reloading is just indefensible. But beyond that, to your point, Texas is a state where we have the castle doctrine. People have weapons that don't have to be concealed or licensed. It's absurd to think that seeing someone with a weapon in a room is tantamount to them brandishing that weapon against you. And beyond that, obviously, there's no evidence ever that she was pointing the weapon at them. So I think this is an absolutely horrible shoot. When I started looking into this case, I thought that there may be a stronger argument for the officers because they were investigating a break-in, but I didn't even know that one of the officers had cleared the scene and determined there was no break-in and there was no threat, or at least to another apartment. So this is a really bad shoot. I think Harris County is going to have to pay a lot of money on this, and I think it's going to be very hard for these officers to justify firing one shot, let alone the 10-plus that they fired.
And Mignon, that's the same thing I said. When I'm looking at this, I'm going, again, you're an officer. I get alleged intruder. I get you see things there on the ground. But you have to, firing into an apartment, when you haven't ascertained who that person is, knowing full well, homeowners can have weapons. They can have weapons. And so I just think that from an officer standpoint, you've got to establish more. Yes, they knocked on the door, but when they saw someone walking, they just started unloading. They didn't yell, gun, put the gun down. No, they just said, empty the clip, reload, empty the clip.
They did. They really did. And, when I was watching it, you could see exactly what was going to happen before it happened, right? I saw and you could also see the arguments that's going to be made in court when they try to defend this overshooting. you see the glass, you see the screen, and I thought to myself, oh gosh, they're going to use this as an out, right? But when you see the police officer, two of them, mind you, right, because they're right next to each other, and one is unloading and unloads the clip and loads it again. The other one's still shooting as well. The first person did say something to the effect. I don't know what they said, but they said something to the person that was in the house. But they started shooting so quickly. I kept thinking to myself, that could have been a kid. There could have been a child behind that door, because I couldn't see from my vantage point that person was a threat. That's the first thing I thought about. The other thing I thought about immediately was, what were the demographics of the community that they were in? Were they primed to shoot in this neighborhood, so to speak? Because I thought, would this have happened if it was in a predominantly white neighborhood that was upper SES? Would they have been primed to immediately overshoot or to unload their clips the way that they did if they were in a different neighborhood? And I have to believe that would not be the case.
And Michael, I'm giving the officers the benefit of the doubt of it being 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt of them seeing the window broken. I mean, I get all of that. The problem that I have is when they see someone and they say they claim they saw a gun, and we know how that goes.
Right.
The problem is how you don't know who that person is. You can say, okay, broken window, must be an intruder, okay? So you don't see any of that. You don't see them, guys, roll the tape up and bring the audio down, but I want you to go to the point where right before they start firing and just press play. What you also don't see is, again, you don't see officers retreating.
Right.
You don't see them seeking to take cover. What you see is unload. You don't know who you're shooting at. You have not ascertained any of that. None of that. Now bring the audio up. Right here, boom. They're just firing. They don't know who they're firing at.
Right.
Michael.
Yeah. One of the things that I made a note of here in watching that video and also reading this article from abcnews.com about this incident is once they started shooting, I didn't hear them give any commands to the person inside that they're shooting at to drop your weapon, sheriff's office, put your hands up, get down on the ground, anything. They just, both of them just unloading. And I'm against breaking and entering. But even if they were breaking and entering, that shouldn't be a death sentence. Yeah, you should be arrested. If you shoot at the officers, yes, they're going to shoot back. But there's nothing here saying that Eboni shot at the officers, even though she had her gun, okay? And if she's a lawful gun owner, she has a right to own a gun. It's Texas. They have very, very lax laws when it comes to gun ownership in Texas. So another thing I was wondering is, I know they were looking through a window and a screen door, things like this, but the same question I was asking, okay, if that was somebody white and they can identify that they were white, would they unload and reload and unload on them like that? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And this reminds me of the case of Tatiana Jefferson, who was with her, I think, nephew at her grandmother's house.
Yeah, she was outside. No. She was with her nephew. She was with her nephew at her house, and that was a call. And the officer sees her, and he begins to fire. That officer, he kills Tatiana Jefferson. That officer was convicted of that murder.
Right. But she goes and grabs her gun that's legally owned. She goes and grabs her gun that's legally owned to protect herself as well as whoever else is inside, her nephew, etc. And the officer shoots through the window and kills her. Okay, this reminded me of that. Luckily, Eboni wasn't killed, but she's scarred for life, possibly physically as well as psychologically.
It's just the thing that jumps out, Matt. And guys, look, everybody who's watching, look, we've different times we've been there where we've had to knock a window out to get into our apartment. I mean, I know other examples of that. And so I get when the officers arrive on the scene and you're putting 1 + 1 together. The problem that I have is to unload that many bullets when you don't know who you're shooting at. They are on the outside. They're on the inside. The cops are on the outside. They're firing into an apartment. They have not ascertained anything about the person they're firing at. That, Matt, is the problem.
Yeah, and I think from a legal standpoint, frankly, they don't necessarily have to ascertain who's inside. They don't have to do a lot of the things we think they should do that are best practices, i.e. calling out sheriff's office, trying to hold somebody at gunpoint rather than firing the weapon. I mean, there are a million police procedural things that they should do that they probably don't have to legally do. However, in this circumstance, to your point, the big issue here is that, I mean, they don't have anything that is even remotely defensible as arguments that they were being faced with force, especially in Texas. To your point, I mean, everybody has weapons here. A lot of people have weapons. So to come, I mean, they knock on the door, somebody doesn't answer. I mean, if they thought it was appropriate to kick the door in before shooting, I mean, they would say, obviously, that will imperil them and endanger them. But my point is that just unloading the way that they did here makes absolutely no sense. And most of the time when I'm on the show, I say, you know, I think that the prosecutors are going to have a hard time. I'm not sure exactly what charge they would bring here, maybe aggravated assault. But this would be a case that I think is a lot easier for the state to prosecute, because they would say, you can't even provide the justifications that we normally find that absolve police officers of potential criminal liability. I mean, I could present this to a grand jury and say this is reckless, because in Texas, our aggravated assault statute says basically you intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly do something. And I would say here, this is per se reckless, right? I mean, the fact that all you see is someone moving inside, as my fellow panelist said, it could have been a child, it could have been a person who's elderly, a person who has disabilities, a person who poses absolutely no threat, who didn't have a weapon. And they didn't even allow enough time to go by to determine if the person actually had a weapon or something else in their hand. So I think that there may be potential criminal liability here, but from a civil standpoint, I think they have an extremely difficult argument, the officers in Harris County, from the standpoint of excessive force, because here, I mean, none of those Graham factors are going to work in their favor, notwithstanding the investigation into the potential burglary.
And of course, the other thing is, if that was an intruder and they were holding somebody hostage, you wouldn't know that. You're just firing. You're just firing away. So we'll certainly see what the Harris County District Attorney does in this case. Going to the break, when we come back. A lot of folks have this assumption. They've been attacking Vice President Kamala Harris the last 3 years, saying she is a drag on the ticket. Yet Washington Post columnist Jennifer Rubin said, no, she's actually an asset. I'll show you my conversation with Jennifer Rubin next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
You heard why we're marching, and it's really a launch. It's not even a march. We're launching
That's right.
a 42-week campaign. March the 2nd at 10 o'clock in Raleigh and 33 other state capitals and the District of Columbia. This is a historic move to mobilize the most powerful untapped block of voters in this country. Poor and low wealth voters who make up 87 million votes. And it's never been tried before. Never been tried before in history. At the same time, same message, same focus. And when that power turns loose, they will not be able to figure out the political calculus. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to shake things up. I'm ready to get up out of the valley. I'm ready for God to put his spirit on us. I'm ready to be used to change this nation. And what we're saying is, can't we come together? Can't we come together around an agenda? You ain't got to like everything about Reverend Barbara. You don't have to like everything about Sangria. You don't have to like everything about Long Choir. But can we come together and say, it's time to end poverty as the fourth leading cause of death? It's time to have $15 at a living wage indexed with inflation. So every time inflation goes up, the minimum wage goes up. It's time to have health care for all. It's time to fully fund public education. Can't we come together? It's time to protect women's right to women's health. It's time to have affordable housing for everybody. It's time to stop the proliferation of guns. Ain't no way folk ought to be able to have more guns than they have food, more guns than they have meat on their table. That makes no sense. Isn't it time for division to be ended and love to take over? Can't we organize around that? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't need to like everything about you, but can't we organize for power? Can't we stand for justice? Can't we love everybody for just a little while? Can't we come up out of the valley? Can these bones live?
Farquhar, executive producer, Proud Family. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Vice President Kamala Harris has faced a slew of critics since she was put on the ticket. A lot of folks, since she's been in the White House, have been saying she is a drag on President Joe Biden. Look at polling numbers say that as well. Others say she is being completely judged incorrectly. Well, Jennifer Rubin, columnist with the Washington Post, published this article a couple of days ago that says that Vice President Kamala Harris is indeed an asset, that she is an underrated asset to this administration and to Democrats. I caught up with her earlier today. Here's our conversation. Jennifer, glad to have you on the show. I saw your piece, Kamala Harris is an underrated asset. And here's what's interesting. We have seen 3 years of a steady stream of stories. Oh, my God, she's horrible. She has no idea what she's doing. And when the narrative is framed that way, it has an impact then on polling numbers. And I think this is a perfect example of a lot of people who have no clue really what the hell the vice president does.
That's absolutely right. You know, first of all, vice presidents generally are not that well regarded, and most of them are frankly atrocious. Do we remember Dan Quayle, spell potato with an E? Do we remember Dan Quayle and his other fellow Republican vice presidents like Mike Pence, who used to stare adoringly up at his boss and come up with one ridiculous compliment after another? Do we remember wooden Al Gore? You know, most vice presidents don't have a great reputation, and in part because it's kind of a made-up job. They don't have a constitutional role other than presiding over the Senate, which Kamala Harris has done many times because it's so divided. But basically, they're there as an insurance policy. Now, unlike some presidents, President Biden has given her substantive things to do, and she's done them. She's traveled all over the world. Most people are not familiar with the fact that she has conducted international diplomacy on behalf of the administration. And moreover, on issues that really hit home for many, many Americans, and I think are going to determine the outcome of the election, like voting rights, like abortion, like now IVF, like climate change, guns. She has been out there doing battle, and she's doing college campuses. Many of them are HBCUs, so she is reaching communities of color. She's really carrying her own weight and more. So this notion that she's somehow a drag on the ticket or she's not ready for prime time, I don't know where it comes from. And you know, when people write these columns or they make these little spiels on cable TV, they rarely talk specifics. And that's because they're not going to find anything specifically that she's done wrong. And in fact, she's done a lot right.
Well, I think part of this is also, again, when you go back to framing. So I've seen journalists folks, white mainstream journalists, I've seen folks in black media go, "Oh, where's she been?" And I'm going, do you not know how to use Google? If you look at her Instagram feed, her Twitter feed, you will see the speeches given, you will see the travel, you will see what she's involved in. But one of the things that she's even talked about that people just somehow act like it didn't exist, really for the first year to a year and a half of the Biden presidency, we were still in COVID. And so there were limitations in terms of moving her and the president around. So to act like that didn't exist is nonsensical, where she was sort of locked in. And to your point, because Democrats were locked in a tie, she needed to stay close to D.C. where they needed her to vote. And she's now has broken the record of the most top-breaking votes. And so this notion that, we were going to see her all around the country was always crazy.
You know, it's a really, really good point. And you're right. Why do they make that complaint about her and not about the president or other people? You know, we haven't talked about it directly, but obviously some of this is because she is a trailblazer. She's the first woman of color. She's the first woman to be in that role. And I think there is almost a sense of entitlement among a lot of people in the mainstream media that therefore they can, judge her harshly. They can apply a different standard to her than they would to anyone else. I didn't hear all of these people complaining when Mike Pence was vice president. I didn't hear these people complaining when Joe Biden was vice president. And she's been as integral a part of this administration as those people were in their own administrations. So you're right. It's this double and triple standard. And this notion, by the way, that the president could simply dump her from the ticket and everything would be okay is mind-bogglingly stupid. Can you imagine the uproar? Rightly so. If he dumped the first woman of color as vice president off his ticket, and for what? To get what? We already know people essentially don't really vote for the vice president. So he's going to piss off millions of people, including women and people of color whose votes he desperately needs. For what? To get some milk toasty person who then they're going to shred for being, too quiet or too loud, too deferential, not deferential enough. The entire conversation strikes me as a bunch of bored people who are too lazy to get out and listen to her. And one of the things I did in the piece that you were so generous to recognize is actually look at what she's been saying. She's incredibly effective, incredibly articulate in ways no one else in this administration has been. When the special counsel's report came out that was essentially a political smear on the president, she gave the single most effective rebuttal, talking about what Biden does on a daily basis. She says, I've been with him. He's asking questions. He's directing our national security apparatus. He was involved in the days directly after October 7, the war in Gaza. She gave a very vivid picture. And why was she able to do that? Because she's there. She's in the room. She is part of the team. So I think people, have this mindset, this framing, as you put it, and don't bother me with the facts. They're going to stick to it come hell or high water.
Also, I think it's important for us to also look back when she ran for president. There was no other candidate who was attacked as vehemently by Russian bots. When you look at the data is there. She far and away. Now, when I see that, the first thing that jumps out at me is, she's an absolute threat. You got that going on. Second of all, you've got people who are in this administration who want to run for president. So she is a threat to them. People need to understand, and people not just look at 2024. They're looking at if Biden-Harris gets reelected in 2024, then she's the front runner in 2028. There are 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 people who really want to be president. And so they don't want to see her in that critical position. And so I think it's nonsensical to not recognize there are multiple factors at play in this whole game of how do we take Vice President Kamala Harris out.
Wow, that is such a good point. And, you know, when you think about it, the critics, the Whisper campaign is doing exactly what Russian bots were doing. They are hand in hand because, of course, the Russians, first of all, want to foment racial unrest, racial conflict in the United States. Secondly, they don't want President Biden to win. They want the patsy who has invited Putin to attack Europe in power. So what are people doing who are engaged in this sniping and whispering campaign? They're doing the Kremlin's work for them. That's all this is. And it's mind-bogglingly counterproductive, coming especially from people who say they want the president to win. Well, this is not the way to get the president elected, dumping on his judgment and dumping on his vice president.
And you alluded to this earlier. And again, for those of us who actually pay attention to these things, if you look at how President Biden has positioned Vice President Kamala Harris, there is no vice president in my lifetime. And then if I even go before, I was born November 14, 1968, you go before that, there has been no vice president that the president has positioned in a forward place. What I mean by that is you look at many of the major speeches, the major events that have happened. Typically, President Biden will have her speak first, then he speaks. I don't recall President Obama doing that for Biden. I don't recall Bush doing it for Cheney. I don't recall Clinton doing it for Gore. We could go on and on and on. And so this idea that, oh, she's been a part of a disappearing act, it's like what the hell are y'all talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's she who is going out on the college tour. It's she who is packing auditoriums and getting incredibly enthusiastic crowds. So the notion that the president thinks she's some kind of deficit or is hurting the ticket, no, he has figured out she is one of the critical parts of getting elected. She has got to get young people, she's got to get women, got to get people of color, got to get people who care about the same issues that she articulates so well. There is no one in the administration who's stronger on abortion and on women's rights than she. The president, frankly, doesn't like to talk about abortion all that much. He's a good Catholic, and it makes him, I think, a little nervous, quite frankly. She has no qualms, and she talks about it in exactly the right way. She says, this is about freedom. And boy, is she right. And as we learned this week with the IVF decision in Alabama, it's about the freedom to decide when you're going to have kids, if you're going to have kids, how you're going to have kids. And she, like a righteous prosecutor, is making that case more effectively than anybody else in the administration.
A couple of more questions. Let's go back a bit, and you might remember this very well. Again, a lot of people, this notion, even dealing with Israel and Hamas in Gaza, wanting Vice President Harris to come out forcefully. And I kept saying, folks, she serves at the pleasure of the president. She cannot do that. I participated in conversations with Sunday morning hosts with Vice President Biden. And there were things that he was pushing President Obama on that Obama wasn't there yet. The role of a vice president is to provide private counsel to represent the interests of the president. Now, we know when Vice President Biden, when he went on Meet the Press and staked out his position on gay marriage, we know Obama was not happy that he got pushed on that, but Biden made a calculated risk. And so I think people need to understand a vice president, they are not looked upon well if they are out here freelancing and doing whatever they want to, and they frankly are opposed to the position of the president.
Exactly. I mean, this is crazy stuff. Did people expect that Dick Cheney was going to come out and criticize President Bush on gay marriage, for example, when he was supportive of it because of one of his daughters and President Bush was catering to the right wing? No, he just shut up about it. So that is the job of the vice president. You don't go around bad-mouthing your boss or creating conflict. And by the way, that doesn't even achieve the aims, because then our allies don't know which one to believe, which one to listen to. She is effective because she carries his message and articulates it in a way that is extremely effective. That's what she was doing, for example, in Munich, when she delivered a very strong speech, really laying into Trump and Putin for seeking to disrupt NATO. That's what she does, is take the president's message, formulate in a way that she's comfortable with and that reaches audiences he cannot. That is her highest use, and that's what she's doing right now.
Last question here, and I think this is really important, and we also have to factor some things in. There were some missteps. There were some mistakes. It is different when you go from being district attorney to Attorney General California to United States Senator to being vice president. You're in a bubble that is unlike any other. And so they're learning, there's a learning curve there. But I think what we were seeing in your article, your piece really lays it out. We're seeing her, frankly, move into, in music, there's a phrase called stay in the pocket. And so she's sort of in that space right now. You can tell, and we live stream all of her stuff on the Black Star Network. You can tell when she's now speaking, she is far more confident. Yeah. She is far more aggressive. And I think, to use a phrase earlier, I think we're absolutely going to see her take on that prosecutorial role over the next 7 to 8 months. And that is going to be the Vice President Kamala Harris that we see. And it's going to remind people when she was grilling Republican nominees when she was in the United States Senate. Absolutely. And the phrase that I use is that she has sharpened the message. She's not saying anything differently than she did before. She is just razor sharp, and she delivers it with power without any hesitation now. And it is a matter of coming into her own. You know, she wasn't in the U.S. Senate for that long, frankly, before she was chosen for vice president. And there, her best moments, again, were prosecuting the case, usually grilling the Supreme Court nominees, who she was exactly right about and what their ultimate goal was once they got on the court. So I think she has grown into the role, and I think we're seeing more of who she is, and I think we're seeing exactly why the president chose her as vice president. She has skills, ability, and identity that he doesn't, and he needs. Folks, check out the piece, Kamala Harris is an underrated asset, by Jennifer Rubin in the Washington Post. Jennifer, we appreciate you joining us on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Thanks a lot. Thank you. All right, folks, we'll talk about this with my panel when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Be sure to join the Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible us to cover the news every single day. It's vital. You've got all these other media outlets that are shutting down, closing down. Well, we've got to make sure that we are here. Send your check and money order. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Check this out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are investing a record $7 billion into HBCUs. Billions for campus improvements, grants, and debt relief. Billions more for HBCUs. Endless possibilities for us.
For the last 15 or maybe 16 years, 18 years, I'll say, since when I moved to LA, I hadn't had a break. I hadn't had a vacation, probably a week vacation here or there. Right. This year, after I got finished doing Queen Sugar and we wrapped it out, because I knew I had 2 TV shows coming on at the same time, I said, I'm going to take a little break. So I've been on break for the first time, and I can afford it now, praise God. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I can afford it. I'm like, I can sit back, I ain't got nothing to worry about, man. But this was the first time in almost in 2 decades that I've actually had time to sit back and smell the roses.
Coming up on the next Black Table, a conversation with Professor Howard W. French on his new book, Born in Blackness, covering 600 years of global African history and helping us understand how the world we know today is a gift from Black people.
There could have been no West without Africa and Africa.
That's on the next Black Table with me, Greg Carr, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dickerson.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, Mignon, Michael, and Matt, let's get into it. Mignon, your thoughts on what Jennifer Rubin laid out by saying that Vice President Kamala Harris is an asset and not a drag on this ticket.
I would agree. Vice President Harris is definitely an asset to this ticket. She has a wide appeal to a broad audience. But the thing that I was thinking about when you were having a discussion was that she's very adept at taking this sort of civil rights framing, this type of messaging that comes from her heritage, right? Her parents were civil rights activists, and making it wide enough and non-threatening and applicable to a very broad audience and in a very quiet and yet powerful way. So, yeah, she's dangerous. She's very dangerous for that reason. And I think, of course, we would automatically criticize her. You know, Vice President Harris can't blink without being criticized, right? She's a woman. She's a woman of color. She's of African American descent. She's got power, and she defers to no one really, but she still plays the party line in a way that allows her to come into her own and to actually show the world what her role is in this administration. So I agree. She's underrated. I think that we've only begun to see the power that she has and the type of influence that she has within the American public, and I'm looking forward to more in the future.
Michael, I think the way we have to look at this is to understand, and I think a lot of people don't really get how these things work. When we talk about American public opinion, well, who shapes American public opinion? Media. For anybody to say that when you look at for a large number of people, oh no, I just made my own independent decision. No. When you have the right attacking her viciously and constantly, when you have folks on the left, oh, this person could be better. I mean, I remember when Senator Elizabeth Warren was interviewed, and when she was asked the question about the Biden-Harris ticket, and then when it came to whether Harris should be on the ticket, she deferred and said, well, that's up to the president. And she got blasted and tried to reach out to the vice president's office, and the vice president wouldn't take her phone calls. And it was a couple of weeks before she would actually even talk to her. And Warren was apologetic when it's like, you created this problem. You could have easily answered the question. And so she's had attacks from folks on her side.
Yeah. She's had attacks from her side. You know, so there's so many things here. I made a list of some recent things that Vice President Kamala Harris has done. First of all, most people don't pay attention to what the vice president does. All those people who criticize her and say she hasn't said anything, she needs to speak up more, from people in the comment section here to Charlamagne the God on The Breakfast Club. I would encourage them to follow VP on Instagram. If you did something as simple as that, okay, you can see what she's done. You can see the HBCU tour that she went on to numerous HBCUs to talk about politics. You can see the reproductive freedom tour that she went on. You can read about the statement that she put out, the Jacksonville, Florida shooting. in 2023 near HBCU. You can look at when she went down to Florida to denounce the new social studies standards from Florida that talked about how some slaves benefited from skills that they learned during slavery, okay? And she was vehement in her condemnation of that. We can look at other things. She presides over the first White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, okay? President Biden gave her the task of trying to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act pushed through. Now, you had obstinate Republicans. When it went to the Senate, no Republicans in the Senate voted for the bill, okay? We can criticize Manchin and Sinema all we want to. At least they voted for that bill, okay? So there's numerous things that she's done. She's eminently qualified, and you have so many people that fear her. They put these hit pieces out on her. You talked about this before, some months ago, last year, different hit pieces in the Washington Post, things like this, that had no foundation. And then on MSNBC, they spent 15 minutes on bullshit, attacking Vice President Kamala Harris, okay? So this is what we're dealing with. And this is what happens when you know you're feared, okay? Because they wouldn't do Dan Quayle like this. They didn't do hit pieces like this on really Vice President Mike Pence. So when you know the opposition fears you, they put stuff out like this.
Matt, this is the Twitter feed here. And again, this what kills me when I hear people say, well, we ain't seen Vice President Harris. We don't know what she doing. You can go here. Here she's on the road talking about Roe v. Wade. Here she is talking today to the National Governors Association with President Biden. Here she is in Grand Rapids, Iowa, right there. Here she is having a discussion about reproductive freedom in Michigan. She's commenting about what's happening in Alabama. She's sitting here again. Here's the Fight for Reproductive Freedom tour in Grand Rapids. Then her Black History comment. Then talking about student loan debt cancellation. This is when she was in Pittsburgh this week, where they had where she gave a speech there talking about the $6 billion going towards infrastructure. Here she is talking about clean water, announcing that $5.8 billion still in Pittsburgh. Excuse me. Here she is. Here literally are photos that are a combination of her week, what took place just in 1 week, talking to the troops and all of that. This is her in Munich, Germany. This is her at the Munich Security Conference right here, where she gave a strong speech there. We carried that speech live on the Black Star Network. This is her meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine. This is her speaking there. And man, I can literally just sit here and keep scrolling. This is her talking to the president of Ukraine. So when I hear people say stupid stuff like, we don't know, we ain't seen her, we don't know, like, well, what's she doing? Hello, this is, the proof is right there, what she's doing.
Yeah, people are going to overlook that proof when they want to attack her, notwithstanding that proof. And I think one of the things that was really important in your conversation with Ms. Rubin is the fact that constitutionally, the vice president doesn't have a specific sphere of influence, right? They're not specific policy things that she is constitutionally given to handle. So I think not only should she be judged based on the content of what she's doing, her actual actions, but the fact that this is a role that can be as expansively handled or as contractually handled, if you can call it that, as the vice president and the presidential administration think is appropriate. And this is proof positive that the
Matt, let's go to the 60s. Matt, let's go to the 60s. Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson was one of the strongest legislators ever. He becomes vice president, and John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy wouldn't give that man time of day. He was the Senate majority leader. He was sitting here doing all sort of stuff. They were like, yeah, we'll need you, Lyndon. And we saw what happened when Kennedy gets assassinated and LBJ becomes president, and how he was able to get those civil rights bills through. So for people to sit here and think that, oh, well, she is just going to just get in there and do whatever the hell she wants. No, you simply can't do that. You have to abide by what's the position of the president, and I have to fall in line. I don't know why people act like that's not real. That's real. You have to fall in line with the direction of the president. And somebody also, Matt, somebody in the chat went, she doesn't serve the pleasure of the president. Newsflash, everybody's watching. Yes, she does. The president can replace anybody he wants to for any reason. He is not obligated to keep Vice President Kamala Harris on at any time. She does serve at the pleasure of the president.
And if the president has her out doing things as important as meeting Zelensky and talking about topic du jour like, abortion, which is obviously one of the biggest political issues of the last 50 years, that's proof positive that the administration not only thinks she's competent and capable of doing it, but that they like how she's shaping that message. And I think Michael hit the nail on the head in talking about knowing your fear. I mean, let's just get down to brass tacks. This is a black woman, a particularly smart, energetic, and effective black woman at communicating, and a black woman who communicates like a prosecutor. If you see a prosecutor in court, most of the people who act as prosecutors are barnstormers. They're going to argue vehemently, they're going to argue passionately, and they are used to encapsulating their points in a way that they want to be persuasive to a jury or here to the American public. So the fact that the administration has given her wings to fly with a lot of its most important policy issues shows that they know that she's adept at doing that. And I think it's a really good point to mention that she doesn't even have constitutional sphere of influence that's specifically given to her. So for the administration to be giving that to her, that is a testament to their confidence in her abilities to communicate their message.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and speak on this, Mignon, as well. And that is, you've got some black folks out here. I see these nutcases, these simpletons in the chat room. As a matter of fact, when I posted the article, the Jennifer Rubin article on my Instagram page, you're going to see some of the comments. She gets attacked because her husband's white. Then you got the people who say, well, she ain't really black because her mama Indian, her daddy Jamaican, again, which is stupid because that's simply a function of where Negroes were dropped off during the slave trade. Okay, so whether you were dropped off in Brazil or Cuba or Haiti or any other part. So let's just be real clear about that. And so you do have that's what is happening around the periphery. But really what we have to understand is she came into the White House and the narrative was already established, grossly underqualified, can't do the job, and the attacks have continued. And I dare say this, if Kamala Harris, take out Vice President, if Kamala Harris was not a threat, she wouldn't be getting so many attacks.
Right. Exactly. She wouldn't be getting so many attacks. And, the thing about Kamala Harris is that, the article referred to her as an underrated asset. I think she's his best, secret weapon, quite frankly. And yes, we're going to have some of us out there that are going to try to bring her down because they have issues with her, or they have issues with who she married or who she loves, or she can't represent me for those reasons. But those are the same people that would say, oh, well, is Barack Obama really black enough, right? And so, you got to let those things go. Does she have a broad enough appeal to be able to carry this ticket? Because honestly, in some respects, I hate to say this out loud, but I always think about when I see President Biden, I always think about Weekend at Bernie's. And I'm thinking to myself, when you were showing these clips of her out there, meeting with Zelensky and meeting with world leaders and on the stage and representing our country, I kept thinking, oh, please stop showing so much because you're showing how competent she really is, right? And so we're almost making her a greater threat when you show how adept she is at navigating this international stage. She's representing...
I know. But no. By showing that, we're showing exactly why the vice president is there. Let's be clear. We have, for all these people who are running around talking about, well, I don't know if Biden's going to make it through a second term. Reagan was shot.
Right.
There were 2 or 3 attempts at President Gerald Ford. Kennedy was assassinated. Mm-hmm. President F. Franklin Delano Roosevelt died in office.
Right.
We could go back. So this idea that, oh my goodness, that's why we have a constitutional hierarchy. That's why it exists. And the other thing is this here. And because on that particular issue there, I would want to show that we have a vice president who is strong, who is competent, who is meeting with world leaders, because that should reinforce, hey, if anything happens, we're good. We have this. But what you have, though, are people who also on this point, on this point here, when people talk about, well, Biden, oh my goodness, I want vibrancy, I want energy. You know what? I want somebody who gets shit done. See that? I mean, again, I'm real clear. Okay? I'm real clear. It's a whole bunch of 45, 48, 50, 55 people. We like, ooh, yeah, man, they get me excited. They got energy. Can they get shit done? Can they get bills passed? No.
Right.
So if you told me I got an 82-year-old dude and a black vice president and they getting shit done, I'm like, yo, keep going. So the problem is, I think what we have is we have too many people who are in love with the pageantry of the presidency. And, oh, I want to see them jogging. I want to see them. Well, hell, look, Biden rides his bike longer than most folk watching. So let's just be real here when we start talking about what people want. We want a lot of people, they want to see the pageantry and all that other stuff. That stuff don't mean nothing if you can't get no bills passed and you can't lower taxes, if you can't sit here and help folk out when it comes to resources. None of that stuff means anything.
That's a fair point and fair argument. And I do think that obviously this administration gets a lot done. I also do, I believe that there's one thing that we have to think about big picture really is how are they going to sort of sell this ticket in this next round? But Biden is getting a lot of, not so much love, let's say, because of his age. I agree with you. He gets shit done, and it's important that he does. And he has a steady record over time, right? It should be a no-brainer compared to the other person who shall not be named that may be running against him. But I still think, I guess it's just me, and maybe it's because I'm a black woman. I feel this necessity to protect Kamala. Not that she needs it, because she doesn't, but just to
That's why she got Secret Service.
Hey.
That's what she got, Secret Service.
You know what? It's a good thing that I want to look after my girl. I'm not gonna give up on that one. I mean, but I think she's ready for the job. She's definitely in training, and she's taking the training wheels off, and she'd be ready for the job day one at the end of a second administration. So yeah, I think she's
but again,
right person for the right time.
But the thing here, Mike, they're getting stuff done. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
And I think their strategy, I think all of this hand-wringing in the White House over, well, what do we do? I mean, he's getting attacked by his age. No, I think what you do is you sit here and go, we did this, we did this. In fact, I got somebody in the chat room, Mike, who goes, well, first, this when you know you're dealing with some dumb people. When they go, well, really, what had they done?
well, if you do something as simple as Google, how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped the African-American community? The first thing that comes up is a 36-page document that breaks down 14 million jobs, 3.7% unemployment rate, lowest unemployment rate for African-Americans, $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, Science Act. You have lowering diabetes drugs. You have
Michael, I go right here. All these people talking about like for instance, Elise Stefanik was talking about, Trump handed Biden the best economy in 50 years. Lying ass fool. So, U.S. has strongest growth among leading economies in 2023. United States plus 2.5. Next is Japan, then Canada. And then when you talk about, okay, what happened here? Expanded child tax credit They've now canceled almost $140 billion in student loans. Black uninsured rate reaches record low through the Affordable Care Act. Drop the lower third, please. Made the largest permanent benefits increase in SNAP history. Combated housing discrimination and provided $25 billion in rental assistance. And then we talk about, as you said, 14.8 million jobs, wages, manufacturing jobs, applications for small businesses, unemployment below 4% for 2 full years, and inflation fell 2% over the last 6 months. Okay, when somebody goes, oh, I don't know what's been done, you've got to be literally deaf, dumb, and blind.
They are. They are. And there's a lot of people like that. And they listen to the black social media disinformation agents that have an echo chamber of black stupidity. Okay? And a lot of them are repeating Russian talking points. But don't forget, the African-American household wealth increased 60% under the Biden-Harris administration as well. So what happens is two things. One, there has to be better messaging, and they are increasing this as we get further into this campaign. And they were even running, I saw TV ads in late 2023 targeting the African-American community, talking about what they've accomplished. $7 billion for HBCUs, $5.8 billion for HBCUs in 2021. Don't forget the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. People talk about the Asian hate crime bill, which is not what it was called. It's called the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. You need to go to congress.gov to actually read the bill. Read that bill at congress.gov because you don't know what it is. But they forget the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, which was the first anti-lynching bill in 122 years. Okay? Passed the House, passed the Senate, signed into law by President Joe Biden. A record number of tie-breaking votes by Vice President Kamala Harris, who presides over the Senate. This is why the American Rescue Plan passed out of the Senate because of her vote. Okay? And then the Inflation Reduction Act. The reason why it passed, because of her vote, the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So these are people who don't read. And lastly, I see these various, Washington Post had one maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, black men are not sure about Biden, things like this. And when I read the article, I can tell these are people who didn't even Google their talking points before they were interviewed by the Washington Post.
Right.
There was one person from Pontiac, Michigan. He said, well, they gave $800 million to Ukraine. You think they can figure out that student loan fiasco? They've forgiven $137 billion for over 3.7 million people. Despite.
Well, first of all, they also don't realize this here. They also don't realize this here. 75% of the money allocated to Ukraine actually goes to U.S. military contractors. The money ain't okay. John. Let me say that a little bit slower. Let me say it a little slower for the people whose brain don't move as fast. Mm-hmm. Congress is allocating money for munitions, bullets, guns, planes for Ukraine. 75% of the money is going to military contractors. Right. Where are they based? In the United States. For everybody who's watching me right now, I need you to know there is a military contractor in every congressional district in America. There are 435 congressional districts. There's a military contractor in all congressional districts. So when you yell, oh, the money that's going to Ukraine, the money is actually going to military contractors where, if y'all pay attention, people who look like you are actually employed. So that's money that's actually not going out of the country to Ukraine. It's actually going to 50 states in America. Just for the people who don't quite understand public policy, finance, and world affairs. So that's where they are. Hold tight 1 second. When we come back, I got to play y'all this lie that Senator Tim Scott keeps advancing about HBCUs and Trump. And also some breaking news regarding the former head of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre. He taking L's like Trump in New York. I'll have it for you next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
You heard why we're marching, and it's really a launch. It's not even a march. We're launching
That's right.
a 42-week campaign. March the 2nd at 10 o'clock in Raleigh and 33 other state capitals and the District of Columbia. This is a historic move to mobilize the most powerful untapped block of voters in this country, poor and low wealth voters, who make up 87 million votes. And it's never been tried before. Never been tried before in history. At the same time, the same message, same focus. And when that power turns loose, they will not be able to figure out the political calculus. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to shake things up. I'm ready to get up out of the valley. I'm ready for God to put his spirit on us. I'm ready to be used to change this nation. And what we're saying is, can't we come together? Can't we come together around an agenda? You ain't got to like everything about Reverend Barber. You don't have to like everything about Sangria. You don't have to like everything about Long Choir. But can we come together and say, it's time to end poverty as the fourth leading cause of death? It's time to have $15 and a living wage indexed with inflation. So every time inflation goes up, the minimum wage goes up. It's time to have health care for all. It's time to fully fund public education. Can't we come together? It's time to protect women's right to women's health. It's time to have affordable housing for everybody. It's time to stop the proliferation of guns. Ain't no way folk ought to be able to have more guns than they have food, more guns than they have meat on their table. That makes no sense. Isn't it time for division to be ended and love to take over? Can't we organize around that? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't need to like everything about you, but can't we organize for power? Can't we stand for justice? Can't we love everybody for just a little while? Can't we come up out of the valley? Can these bones live?
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Y'all, I really can't stand people who lie. And one of those people who keeps lying is Senator Tim Scott. So Fox had a town hall the other day with Donald Trump. And Senator Tim Scott stood up and literally said this out of his mouth. And it's just a straight up lie.
Who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump. Who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump. Who's the president who brought...
That, y'all, is a straight up lie. Michael, at 10:38 this morning, I sent a text to Senator Tim Scott that said, Senator, where is the proof to back this up? There is nothing to back this up. Please have your staff send me an email to corroborate this statement. I'll gladly show it on my show, but none of this can be verified. He's lying.
He is lying. Just like he lied and blocked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act when he said that the sticking point was defund the police. And then in late September of 2021, the Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Police Chiefs put out a joint statement refuting what he said. And they said at no time was defund the police discussed in their negotiations. It was never part of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So in 2021, the Biden-Harris administration allocated.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. You mean, I'm sorry. When you talk about a statement, you mean this one right here?
Absolutely. I have a copy of it. Absolutely. They put out a joint statement.
This is the statement right here. And they said, despite some media reports At no point did any legislative draft propose defunding the police. In fact, the legislation specifically provided additional funding to assist law enforcement agencies in training, agency accreditation, and data collection initiatives. That's what they said. Tim Scott is straight lying.
Correct. And he continues to lie. This is why he's backing a liar. Tim Scott is like the Tim Scott is a really, you know, he's a really a disappointment. Even if you hate Republicans, hate black Republicans, things like this. Just as a black man who stood on the U.S. Senate floor and talked about the number of times he was pulled over by police, okay? For him to come out and lie like this, $5.8 billion was allocated in 2021 by the Biden-Harris administration to HBCUs. It was from the budget, it was from the American Rescue Plan, et cetera. A record number. More than the Trump administration. Tim Scott is lying. And also he'll want to talk about opportunity zones and things like this. There's no evidence of opportunity zones working. Okay. He'll talk about the jobs that Trump created, et cetera. NBC.
First of all, there's no evidence. There's no evidence. Hold on, and let me be clear. 6 months after those were launched, the pastor out of Baltimore who stood with Trump and Tim Scott and making the announcement at the White House, we had him on this show, and he said they ain't done a damn thing. Before Trump left the Oval Office, or before it stopped, after he lost, I reached out to them and said, can you provide me a report or an analysis or an update on these opportunity zones? No one even responded. So he lies about that as well. And so this is the thing, Matt. This is the thing, Matt, that, again, why he must be fact-checked. But see, Tim Scott knows he can stand in the front of a group of bunch of white people, Republicans, and they're going to clap at that nonsense. Nobody on Fox News is going to fact-check him. And again, he won't respond to a text. He won't come on black-owned media because he knows it's easier to lie to white conservatives than it is to push a lie to black people, knowing full well we're going to fact-check your behind.
And in addition to that, there's no political loss for lying. If there was any real loss for you being pointed out as a liar and what you're saying is not only not true, but that you're pandering through that lying, then maybe they would be reticent to do so. But clearly, there's no loss. You might as well just go out there and lie if you know that it's going to garner a few more votes, is I think their position on it. And, you know, it's interesting that they don't even take the opportunity to fact check, right? Because if you do that, then at least you look like you're trying to be nuanced. But that's the reality. They're not pandering towards policy wonks, and they're not pandering towards a lot of people who pay attention. They're pandering towards people who are going to get feel goods from buying the lie that President Trump is giving black colleges more than any other president because they want to absolve themselves of their guilt. And once that's done, it doesn't matter if it's actually true. It's about, you know, the vibes, if you will. And those are, oh, here's what President Trump has done for black people, even though we know it isn't true. So I'm not surprised he didn't respond to your text. And I'm not surprised that they continue to lie as brazenly as they have.
And Simeon Young, they can't sit here and say, oh, you didn't give us opportunity to respond. I text him directly at 10:38 this morning. His staff had 8 hours to send me a basic email with the proof. You know why they didn't? Because it doesn't exist.
They probably blocked you. They probably had to, because they couldn't. I mean, how could anyone in good conscience try to respond to what you're saying, right? Tim Scott is, it's quite sad and tragic at the same time, because he's playing his role. His job is to go out and is to placate white people and to try to convince them that Donald Trump is not this raging lunatic, white nationalist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi person that he really is, right? And that's his role. The thing that I'm wondering, though, is what is he jockeying for while he's pandering and while he's peddling these lies?
Vice President, he wants to be Trump's VP nominee.
Does he really think that's going to happen? Does he really think that he's going to?
Oh no, listen. That's why he knew he was never going to be president. That's why he stopped the George Floyd Justice Act. He was aiming for VP the entire time.
But so is Nikki, though, isn't she? But at what cost, right? At what cost? At what point?
Easy. Your ethics, your morals, your values, and your principles. Because when that's all you care about is power, then you will give all of that up. And so, again, he's lying. He's flat out lying. And again, Senator Tim Scott and your staff, let me say it again. Go to a solo. Come on, y'all. Senator Tim Scott and your staff, I dare you to come on this show with the facts to prove that Donald Trump provided more funding to HBCUs than any other president in history. I dare you. I double dare you. Call me. You got my number. But you know you won't, because you're lying. Just like you lied about the George Floyd Justice Act. And then when I hit you with those facts, Senator Scott, where the Democrats literally use your own proposal from a year earlier, you stopped responding to those texts. Your staff stopped responding to the emails. That's when we know folks are lying, when they stop responding. Folks, real quick, breaking news here. Looks like Wayne LaPierre done got smacked down by Tish James. Now, Wayne LaPierre, of course, a longtime leader of the NRA, he stepped down right before this trial started. And so he was on trial in New York for a civil corruption. This is NBC story. Jury deliberated for 5 days, and Wayne LaPierre diverted millions of dollars away from the National Rifle Association to live luxuriously, while the gun rights group failed to properly manage its finances. The case was brought against him by Letitia James. The jury ruled, the story says the jury ruled largely in favor of James, finding that the NRA failed to properly run its nonprofit and its assets at any time between March 20th, 2014 and May 2nd, 2022. Jurors also determined that LaPierre, Phillips, and Frazier all violated their statutory obligations to discharge the duties of their position in good faith. They said LaPierre caused $5.4 million in monetary harm to the NRA, but that he has already repaid at least $1 million of that. The 74-year-old appeared stoic as the verdict was read. Ooh, Tish James is just whooping that MAGA ass, Matt.
Yeah, she is. But you know what pisses me off about this? This is a fraud case or a theft case. If this was a black person leading a nonprofit where they allege them of not using that money the right way, we'd be looking at a criminal indictment. Now, Tish James is obviously the attorney general. I don't know if in New York she has criminal authority, but this infuriates me because the basic allegation is that he stole money, right? That they embezzled it. These executives used money to enrich themselves and did not administer the money properly in the nonprofit. And as much as we talk about criminal justice issues here, this is the kind of thing that infuriates me, because if a jury is saying they've got to disgorge their profits in the amount of $6.4 million, then it sounds to me like a jury determined that $6 million was supposed to go somewhere it didn't go, and they believe that these people are liable for doing that. Now, to be fair, I don't know what evidence they have, and I don't know if prosecutors looked at it, but it sounds to me like a straight-up theft or a fraud case. And the fact that they're not on the hot seat under a criminal indictment, to me, is problematic. And I wonder if there will be some kind of companion criminal case to follow. But that's what I heard when you just read that. This was a fraud and essentially an embezzlement case. So I wonder if the feds are looking at it, and if they're not, I hope that they do, because it sounds like somebody embezzled a lot of money.
I must say, Mignon, I keep telling these people, you better leave these black women alone. Tish James is just smacking that ass.
I know. I was thinking that. I was like, okay, so we've got Fonnie Willis, we've got Tish James, so I'm thinking, oh man, they're not going to let us into law school anymore. We're in trouble. These women do not mess around whatsoever, and they make sure that justice, to the extent in which they are able to, is served. But at some point, I do wonder. I get very concerned about these payouts, right? Because we start to see more and more, and this is happening with He Who Shall Not Be Named, which is, at what point do we say that paying someone off or paying out whatever it is, the debt that you've incurred by virtue of the crimes that you've committed, is not enough, right? When do these people go to jail? When do they suffer the same penalties that our communities suffer for much lower crimes, right? And so I'd like to see some of the prosecutors up the ante a little bit, but of course you got to be able to get a jury that's willing to make it stick as well. So it's it's a tough thing to see. But I get tired of seeing them being able to pay their way out of everything. I want to see them go to jail just like everybody else, and hopefully that will happen at some point.
I agree.
In the future. Yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, this is karma coming back on Wayne LaPierre. And it's interesting how he and Trump and others of that ilk get caught up on misspending money, misappropriations. Jurors found that he misspent $5.4 million. He used funds from the NRA for personal expenses, including vacations, luxury flights for his relatives, and rides on super yachts. And so a lot of them get caught up on the same thing, trying to live that Kardashian life or something like that, right? And using money from the organization. So this is good news, and this is another one. Letitia James just grabbed him by the wallet also. This is another one. So hey, this is what happens when you mess with black women.
And this is what happened when you're a crook. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. We'll chat with Eric Dickerson and Jason Hill about Young Warriors Foundation. Also, there's a video going viral about a young man who was gifted a trip to the NBA All-Star Game weekend and $1,000, which he gave to his mom. And it's a fantastic video. But I have a different take that people haven't really talked about. And Robert Reich lays out how these pro stadium deals suck for taxpayers. D.C. residents, Virginia residents, Chicago residents, pay attention. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Check this out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are investing a record $7 billion into HBCUs. Billions for campus improvements, grants, and debt relief. Billions more for HBCUs, endless possibilities for us.
Coming up on the next Black Table, a conversation with Professor Howard W. French on his new book, Born in Blackness, covering 600 years of global African history and helping us understand how the world we know today is a gift from Black people.
There could have been no West without Africa and Africa.
That's on the next Black Table with me, Greg Carr, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. What does it mean to actually have balance in your life? Why is it important and how do you get there? A masterclass on the art of balance. It could change your life.
Find the harmony of your life. And so what beat can you maintain at a good pace? What cadence can keep you running that marathon? Because we know we're going to have high levels, we're going to have low levels, but where can you find that flow, that harmonious pace?
That's all next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, with Sammy Roman.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Virginia State Senator Louise Lucas has been hardcore against this stadium deal that Glenn Youngkin, the governor, wants to sign with Ted Leonis, the owner of the Washington Wizards and the Capitals. You also have in Chicago Jerry Reinsdorf, who is demanding $1 billion from Illinois Governor Pritzker for the building of a new baseball stadium. We've seen this time and time again on how these billionaire team owners fleece taxpayers out of money to build them stadiums. Well, Robert Reich dropped a video that I think really explains this, and I wanted to show it to y'all. Go ahead.
Billionaires have found one more way to funnel our tax dollars into their bank accounts: sports stadiums. And if we don't play ball, they'll take our favorite teams away. Ever notice how there never seems to be enough money to build public infrastructure like mass transit lines and better schools? And yet, when a multi-billion-dollar sports team demands a new stadium, our local governments are happy to oblige. A good example of this billionaire boondoggle is the host of the 2023 Super Bowl, State Farm Stadium. That's where the Arizona Cardinals have played since 2006. It was built after billionaire team owner Michael Bidwill and his family spent years hinting that they would move the Cards out of Arizona if the team didn't get a new stadium. Their blitz eventually worked, with Arizona taxpayers and the city of Glendale paying over 2/3 of the $455 million construction tab. And State Farm Stadium is not unique. It's part of a well-established playbook. Here's how stadiums stick the public with the bill. Step number 1, billionaire buys a sports team. Just about every NFL franchise owner has a net worth of over $1 billion, except for the Green Bay Packers, who are publicly owned by 500,000 cheeseheads. Go, Pack, go! The same goes for many franchise owners in other sports. Their fortunes don't just help them buy teams, but also gives them clout, which they cash in when they want to get a great deal on new digs for their team. Step number 2, billionaire pressures local government. Since 1990, franchises in major North American sports leagues have intercepted upwards of $30 billion worth of taxpayer funds from state and local governments to build stadiums. And the funding itself is just the beginning of these sweetheart deals. Sports teams often get big property tax breaks and reimbursements on operating expenses, like utilities and security on game days. Most deals also let the owners keep the revenue from naming rights, luxury box seats, and concessions, like the Atlanta Braves' $150 hamburger. Even worse, these deals often put taxpayers on the hook for stadium maintenance and repairs. We taxpayers are essentially paying for the homes of our favorite sports teams, but we don't really own those homes. We don't get to rent them out, and we still have to buy expensive tickets to visit them. Whenever these billionaire owners try to sell us on a shiny new stadium, they claim it will spur economic growth from which we all benefit. But numerous studies have shown that this is false. As a University of Chicago economist aptly put it, if you want to inject money into the local economy, it would be better to drop it from a helicopter than invest it in a new ballpark. But what makes sports teams special is they're one of the few realms of collective identity we have left. Billionaires prey on the love that millions of fans have for their favorite teams. This brings us to the final step in the playbook: threaten to move the team. Obscenely rich owners threaten to, or actually do, rip teams out of their communities if they don't get the subsidies they demand. Just look at the Seattle Supersonics. Starbucks founder Howard Schultz owned the NBA franchise, but failed to secure public funding to build a new stadium. So the coffee magnate sold the team to another wealthy businessman who moved it to Oklahoma. Now that'll leave a bitter taste in your mouth. The most egregious part of how the system currently works is that every dollar we spend building stadiums is a dollar we aren't using for mass transit, hospitals, housing, or schools. We're underfunding public necessities in order to funnel money to billionaires for something they could feasibly afford. So instead of spending billions on extravagant stadiums, we should be investing taxpayer money in things that improve the lives of everyone, not just the bottom lines of profitable sports teams and their owners. Because when it comes to stadium deals, the only winners are billionaires.
Man, let me tell y'all something. Senator Louise Lucas, she's been killing Governor Youngkin on this deal. Check this out. This was a tweet that she posted. She said, the Glen Dome financing is based on ticket sales to the new arena. Looking at the projections, that appears to include Wizards playoffs games. Wizards playoffs? I was still at the shipyard the last time they were relevant in that discussion, and they were called the Bullets. Then she even hit them harder. She goes, I hope no one took my tweet the wrong way earlier. I'm always rooting for the Wizards in every NBA draft lottery. Damn, Mignon. But she's right. The bottom line is, I have never believed that cities and counties and states should be spending billions to build palatial sports stadiums for billionaire team owners, and all it does is drive up the value of the team when they choose to sell.
When we're talking about public dollars, and the vast majority of us probably couldn't afford to buy tickets because it just costs too much money to attend these games, right? The video is very interesting because it talks about this collective identity. Why can't we just try to build a collective identity around doing public or investing our monies, our public monies, into public goods, right? Into schools, I'm thinking of where I am in Richmond, Virginia. Our roads are just raggedy as you can imagine, and I'm thinking, where's our money going? Oh, we're going to go pay for some kind of stadium now. We just got rid of a casino that they tried to put in Richmond, Virginia. We just got that off the table, but I guess they've decided that they're going to do a bait and switch and try to put some more money up in Nova and bring this. What is it? A basketball team or is it a football team? Is it a basketball team? Was it basketball?
Yes, it's basketball and hockey.
Oh, well, hockey, whatever. But basketball, I could get with that one. But yeah, they just cannot use public monies for that purpose. And we're just making the rich richer and the poor poorer, and we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and Paul already has a mansion on the hill. We just can't spend our money in that way anymore. And the general public has got to become aware and educated about how our tax dollars are being spent. And we need to pay attention. We need to hold them accountable, and we need to vote for folks like Louise Lucas.
What they are doing, Matt, is very simple, and Robert laid it out. They're playing to the emotions of people. And folks go, we can't lose our team. What's going to happen? Right now, all these people are predicting downtown D.C. is going to just crater if they leave. First of all, the stadium isn't going anywhere. There's still going to be concerts at the stadium. In fact, there are more concerts at Capital One Arena than there are NBA games. And so this is what happens. And then they have these fake economic impact studies. I cover city council in Fort Worth. And I remember when Bruton Smith was looking to build the Texas Motor Speedway. And Fort Worth said, hey, we'll provide funding for infrastructure, roads, things like that, getting to the facility. They said, but we ain't building you no track. And so they laid it out. It was a smart deal. This here is the Wall Street Journal did a great article in 2010. And they said that Cincinnati had one of the worst sports stadium deals in history. In history, they said in 2010, the Wall Street Journal reports that Hamilton County spent $34.6 million on the stadium. That was 16.4% of the county's total budget, Matt.
I mean, I think, look, I don't know that I have enough of the information about how the tax benefit or the alleged benefit has played out in all these places. I saw his notation to the studies.
Ain't none. Ain't none.
Not true, but let me finish. So a couple things. First, one of the big issues is we don't see welfare to corporations the same way we see welfare to people. A tax subsidy is welfare to a corporation. So for $30 billion, to cite his number, to be going to people who are billionaires and corporations or organizations that are billion-dollar corporations and organizations, to be getting a subsidy on what they would otherwise be paying for the building is a problem, particularly where we have such contentious political fights about how we're going to fund welfare programs or social programs to people. So I think that's one of the big issues, is that when it comes to corporations, it's shrouded in a different conversation than when it comes to the individual who needs help through a social program. But I do recognize that, at least theoretically, there's supposed to be some economic impact. It sounds like the studies show that it's not the case. I haven't looked at all the numbers, but it seems to me like there's got to be a marriage between the reality of the fact that there is a very strong collective identity with certain teams, including the Dallas Cowboys, for instance, in Jerry's world, right? People really gravitate to that. So I think that there is a public.
But guess
element.
what? Guess what?
Good.
But guess what? The Dallas Cowboys are in Arlington. Before that, they were in Irving. And so they are in Arlington, Texas. Before that, they were in Irving, Texas. They ain't been in Dallas since the early 70s. And what you have is now, the city of Arlington, their whole deal is they said, we want to build an entertainment complex. So when you go there, you got the Cowboy Stadium, you got the old Texas Rangers. First of all, nothing wrong with that stadium. They were like, a little hot in Texas. So they built them a new dome stadium. And so they got Six Flags there as well. So they want to build an entertainment complex. I still say this here. I still say, point blank, that if an owner wants to build this mixed-use facility and restaurants and amphitheater and all sorts of hotel, finance it your damn self. And you get to make all the money. You can make everything from it. But this whole game of, and this is the problem, states got to sell bonds to pay for it. I can tell you this here. When the Houston Oilers threatened to leave, Harris County said, all right, we're going to refurbish the Astrodome. Spent more than $200 million in bonds. He still left. 30 years after they left, Harris County was still paying on the bonds. So what these teams do is they cut deals, and later, in 15, 20 years, our stadium is outdated. We need a new one. That's the game being played. And so all this, we're going to create 30,000 jobs. It's going to, all those are bullshit studies. They're lies.
Yeah, but let's expand this, Roland. I mean, the same thing happens when Walmart comes to town. Walmart comes to town and sells a bill of goods and says, we're going to generate this much capital, so give us tax subsidies, and they give them some kind of decreased, annual tax rate based on whatever their actuarial valuations are. And the idea is all about it being an economic engine. Now, at the end of the day, there is, I think, a public good element to sports and sports teams. But the fact that most of the public can't afford to go to those games, or at least NFL games a lot of times, I think cuts against the idea of the collective identity. But I would say this. It seems to me like, the billionaire owners have exercised a lot of leverage when it comes to building these stadiums. And I think the reality of it is a lot of times you have local governments that are bought and sold, or they're finding some way for that developer's money to make it into their campaign coffers. Right. But I think to me, it seems like it's a more nuanced conversation of a both and. Maybe there is some public contribution to the stadiums, because I think no contribution to the public in a circumstance where they're not able to be involved in that building, which there is a communal element to. However, if you could require that the billionaire owners pour more into the economy in the way of whatever kind of contribution it may be to the educational system or some other system, or even like Mignon said, I mean, fixing the roads, right? I mean, a lot of these cities have piss poor roads and palatial stadiums. And to that end, we also have to talk about how some of these other public entities build palatial stadiums. I mean, Allen in North Texas built a $6 million stadium for their football team. Hold up. No, wait. No, hold up. No. See, here's the difference. That was the Allen School District. That was the Allen School District that built the stadium for their local teams. Those are taxpayer dollars approved by a school board, and so that's different. That's totally different. No. Here's the whole deal. That's totally different. No. In this case, wait a minute. No. In this case, these are stadiums being built for private teams. And here's the deal. The bonds used to finance it come from the state or the city, but the team controls it and owns it. So they get to decide who uses the facility and who gets to do with it. So the problem is, it's theoretically owned by the state, but it's really owned by the team. These deals are all trash. And I'll say this here. I'm going to go to you, Michael. When we talk about tax incentives to businesses actually bring in thousands of jobs. People get employed. Folks buy homes.
things like that.
Right.
An NFL stadium is 8 home games. That's it. An NBA stadium is 41 home games. That's it. They're seasonal jobs. And that's the problem. And all it's doing is enriching billionaires. I dare say, finance it your damn self. And that way, you can get all the benefits.
Yeah, I think it should be financed. The billionaires should finance it themselves. They can go to the banks. They can get whatever funding they need for it. We saw something similar to that when Little Caesars Arena was built here in Detroit by the Ilitch family. And they got tax breaks from the city of Detroit through city council for that. So, you know, I agree with Robert Wright, former labor secretary.
Hold on. No. Don't go past that. The Ilitch family, how much are they worth?
I forgot how many billions. But they could have gone to the bank and gotten whatever funding they needed. Okay, you get
the state of New York. The state of New York gave the owners of the Buffalo Bills $850 million for their stadium, and the owners are worth $5.5 billion.
They can go to the bank and get whatever funding they need. Okay, but I looked at an article from Robert Wright's video, and it talked about that funding could go to build and fund hospitals, housing, low-income housing, possibly schools, etc. And you know, this oftentimes in inner cities, right? You hear about them say whether they are or not. They always say, "Oh, the police department is overfunded," right? Well, here you have schools underfunded. You have a need for low-income housing. You have other things that are needed that money could go to fund to reduce crime, okay, in the communities. But you want to fund entertainment districts, or you want to fund a stadium. Now, if it's going to be multi-use, I look at multi-use a little different than if it's just going to be used for the home team to play at home. But even multi-use, the majority of that should still be funded by the billionaires themselves, as opposed to taxpayers footing the bill.
Hey, bottom line is this here: this is nothing but welfare. And if us and all these fiscal conservatives who say, "Oh, we shouldn't be giving handouts to the poor. We shouldn't be giving handouts to single moms," this is nothing but a handout to billionaires. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know of any city where all of a sudden the quality of life just dramatically dropped. And now, oh my God, what happened to us? When the Oilers left Houston, Houston was fine. We were good. It's not like all of a sudden, oh my God, we don't have a team to cheer for. There are cities all around America that do not have pro teams, and they have great quality of life. You do not need a pro team to do that. Austin, Texas, fantastic quality of life. Ain't no pro sports team in Austin. San Antonio, they got the Spurs. They've been trying for decades to get a football team, but guess what? Even without a football team, San Antonio's fine. They're fine. So I'm with Senator Louise Lucas, and she told the mayor of D.C., she said, "Hey, sister, join me. Pull your offer. Pull your offer," and then for Ted Leonis to now then go, "But damn, I can't get the money from D.C. I can't get the money from Virginia. Now what I'm going to do?" You know what he going to do? Pay for it himself. All right, I got to go to a break. We'll come back. Eric Dickerson. We'll talk about this Young Warriors Foundation that's next on Rolling Martin Unfiltered. And I got to show y'all this NBA video, but I got a different little take on it than a lot of y'all on this one. So that's next on Rolling Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
For the last 15 or maybe 16 years, 18 years, I'll say, since when I moved to LA, I hadn't had a break. I hadn't had a vacation. Probably a week vacation here and there. Right. This year, after I got finished doing Queen Sugar and we wrapped it out, because I knew I had 2 TV shows coming on at the same time, said, I'm going to take a little break. So I've been on break for the first time, and I can afford it now. Praise God. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can afford it. I'm like, I can sit back and ain't got nothing to worry about, man. But this was the first time in almost in 2 decades that I've actually had time to sit back and smell the roses.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
I play a lot of golf tournaments all around the country. And a lot of people don't realize that you're not just out there just playing. I mean, a lot of them are raising money for foundations. Well, Monday in the LA area, Eric Dickerson is having his annual golf tournament. It benefits the Young Warriors Foundation. He is the chief ambassador for them. Jason Hill is the founder of the Young Warriors. I played in their tournament last year. I was really looking forward. I was supposed to fly out tomorrow. But I don't know what the hell I got hit with. I'm under the weather. I'm literally doing the show from the house. And so I need to stay here and get well. I hate the fact that I'm going to miss the tournament. But joining me right now is Eric Dickerson and Jason. Glad to see both of y'all here. Again, y'all know it kills me. I can't play golf. But I've been literally on the road constantly since MLK Day. So something hit my behind and knocked me on my butt. So I need to get well. But I definitely still want to have y'all on to talk about this here. So Jason, you're the founder. What is the Young Warriors? Tell our audience what this foundation does.
Yeah, Young Warriors is it's a foundation that I started growing up without a father, a drug addict home in Akron, Ohio. It's a foundation to help fatherless boys become stable and balanced contributions to society. We help the young men and the single moms get through some tough times. We buy computers. We help them with rent. But mostly what we do is we teach them a warrior's way mindset, which helps them take care of themselves and get themselves up and out of a situation that they were born in.
Eric, when did you get involved with this foundation as chief ambassador?
I got involved about 10 years ago in the foundation through Jason and another guy. They came to my house and kind of gave me the whole spiel on the foundation. And I liked it. I think I liked it because basically I was a guy that I had a dad, even though my dad, I was adopted. I was legally adopted within my family. My great-great-aunt adopted me, so I could relate to that. And I've seen the impact that it has having a dad in the house. And I can say that because of my experience. When my father passed away, I was 17 years old, and I was devastated. And it really changed the way that I look at things. It didn't change me. I mean, it didn't change me because I still, having that foundation set with my dad, and I still say he was the best man I ever knew, Kerry Dickerson, it kind of set me on the path of where I came to, where I'm at today. And I see these young men that don't have fathers in their lives. It's a big change. It makes a big difference in their lives. Matter of fact, I went to a prison about 6 years ago, and it was about 80 prisoners. And we would all then have different tables.
No. You visited a prison.
Visited a prison. I ain't go to prison. Visited a prison. I said visited a prison. Yeah, I visited.
Right. I just want to clarify that.
Heck yeah, man! I ain't trying to go to no prison. I visited a prison. But I can tell you, Roland, man, that is you don't want that. But I'm gonna tell you, I really. And Jason had said this, and you see the numbers on TV, and you hear about these numbers and stuff, and you're like, is that for real? But when you see guys stand there and say, it was 80 guys, I think about 65 to 70 guys step forward. They said guys who didn't have a father in the household step forward. About 65 to 70 guys step forward. And a few of them talked about what it meant not having a dad in their house, not having a dad in their life, a man in their life. So it just goes to show it can really, really upset the balance, of a young male's life.
Jason, how many young men have come through your program?
At least 1,000, 1,500, somewhere in there.
And I take it you have some amazing stories of how they've been transformed by being a part of this Young Warriors Foundation.
Oh, absolutely. We got what's interesting, we got two different kind of stories I like to tell. Like, we got one kid named Wonder, started off about 9 years old. During COVID, he got signed to play professional basketball in Germany. Then we got another kid named Carlos, whose parents were deported when he was 9, and the streets got a hold of him. And so keeping him on track and keeping him out of prison and keeping him healthy and balanced is an everyday process. So once they join the Young Warriors program and they're assigned mentors, we like to say we like to watch them grow up and grow their beards. And we absolutely do that. We spend many, many years with them. 10 to 15 years, some of these kids have been in our program.
Wow. Now, what's the geographic reach of the foundation?
Mostly East LA and South LA. We're across Los Angeles.
And are you thinking about expanding to other parts of the country?
Well, I wish you could make it Sunday night, because we're going to announce that. We're going to start our camps and start doing things, and absolutely, that's the goal. Absolutely.
No, you're in the right spot.
And Eric, that has...
Roland. You're in the right spot. You're sick. You need to be at home. You're in the right spot.
Hey, man! I was in Nashville Wednesday. I was in 4 cities last week, and man, it hit me last night, and I was like, okay. I said, I'm gonna see how I feel today without going on that plane tomorrow. I said, no. I'm gonna spend the next 4 days resting. I didn't even go into the studio. I'm literally in my home studio right now, and so I hate to miss it. But again, it's always a great golf tournament. You always have a bunch of your Hall of Fame friends who are there, always talking trash, talking smack. It's always a good time there. First of all, let folks know how they can support the foundation. If they obviously can't go to the tournament, how can they support what you're doing?
They can just go to youngwarriors.org, and there's multiple ways to contribute. Just participate, sign up, be a mentor, give a donation. Just email us and tell us what else you can contribute and how you'd like to participate. We need a lot of people. We need everybody.
Well, again, a lot of people leave that graphic up. A lot of people love to talk about how we need to help folks, the next generation. That's what this does. And so, again, if you want to provide assistance, please do so. Youngwarriors.org, youngwarriors.org. You can also become a mentor. That's valuable as well. So everything's on the website. Jason and Eric, always good to see y'all. I definitely plan on being there next year. So good luck with this year's tournament on Monday.
All right, thanks. Hey, thanks, Roland. Take care of yourself, brother.
Hey, Roland, I had you with Lawrence Taylor and Marcus Allen.
I appreciate it.
So next time.
You had me playing with Lawrence Taylor and Marcus Allen. Oh, Lord. LT is out of his mind. So I played in his golf tournament, and Marcus is silky smooth. So I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, Roland. Thank you, man.
All right, y'all. I'm going to go to thank you. I'm going to go to a break. We come back. I'm going to share with y'all this viral video. And I got a different take. And I'm going to see how y'all feel about this when we come back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Check this out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are investing a record $7 billion into HBCUs. Billions for campus improvements, grants, and debt relief. Billions more for HBCUs. Endless possibilities for us.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dickerson. She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons. And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Coming up on the next Black Table, a conversation with Professor Howard W. French on his new book, Born in Blackness, covering 600 years global African history and helping us understand how the world we know today is a gift from Black people.
There could have been no West without Africa and Africa.
That's on the next Black Table with me, Greg Carr, only on the Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer of Proud Family.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I saw this video on social media today, and it caught my attention, and I really like it. It's going to bring you to tears, but I also think we should be thinking about what takes place in this video in a different way. Watch.
$1,000 cash or shoot your shot at an NBA mystery?
Shoot my shot.
Over $1,000 cash?
I love the game so much.
What's your name?
Kaisen.
What's your dream?
To be an NBA.
Could you use the cash?
Yeah, for my mom. She needs groceries. She needs to pay her rent. I just want to help her sometimes.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
5 sisters and 6 brothers.
You have 11 siblings?
Yeah.
Why did you think of your mom?
She's one of my favorite persons in the world. I love her.
Have you ever been to an NBA game before?
No.
What grade are you in?
4.
How old were you when you started playing basketball?
3.
Give me one last chance. Cash or basketball? Sure?
Yeah.
So with the NBA mystery, you gotta shoot one shot. Hey! What do you think the NBA mystery is?
Basketball? Open this. Congratulations, you will not be at home this weekend. You are flying to Indiana for an NBA All-Star Game weekend. Going to the NBA All-Star Game.
Wait, what?
In Indiana.
You're lying. I said what?
I'm happy for you. You deserve it. We have one more surprise for you.
I hope you win.
$1,000 for you.
I love you and I would choose you over anything. I'm going to the NBA.
You know this guy? How you doing? Nice to meet you, man.
Throw it, get it.
NBA is the best day of my life. I love you.
There you go. My guy.
I can't believe this. I'm going to make it to the NBA one day.
So, a few years ago, I was in Los Angeles at Stevie Wonder's radio station. And after I appeared on the radio show, they wanted me to meet the staff who work at the station. I said, sure. So I'm meeting the folks working accounting and traffic, all the different areas. And I run into this sister, and she says, look at my, she says, this picture of this is my son. She said, that's my first rounder. I said, excuse me? She said, that's my first rounder. And I said, ma'am, you're raising your son to be a first round draft pick of the NBA. She says, yes. I said, but why are you not raising your son to be the owner? I said, we often only speak in terms of professional sports from the perspective of us as the player. And I said, I understand that because that's what we see. I said, but sister, you should not be raising your son and saying he's a first rounder. What you should be saying is, I'm raising a sports team owner. She started crying. She said, no one had ever said that to me. I think about when I was in Arlington, Texas. There was a brother named Cotton. That was his nickname. Good brother, strong Christian brother. He owned the barbershop. Whenever I would go into the barbershop, the brothers in the barbershop would be talking about his son. They called him Lil Cotton. And his basketball exploits. Lil Cotton could ball. So the brothers in the barbershop would be talking about, man, the game, and man, he scored X points and the assists and the rebounds and how he was dishing the ball. And I said, Lil Cotton, what are you reading? He said, sir, what do you mean? I said, what are you reading? I said, not in school, but what are you reading outside of school? I said, look, Cotton, when I come in here, I'm going to ask you what you're reading. I'm not going to talk about your points or your rebounds and your assists. I'm going to ask you the name of the book. I'm going to ask you the author of the book. I'm going to ask you what it's about. And his dad went, brother, I apologize. I said, Cotton, you ain't got to apologize. And so we began to talk about that there. And for years, I've said to different NBA execs, I really believe y'all should launch a program that speaks to black kids specifically about how to go to the NBA but not bounce a basketball. And so to that young brother who was in that video, and if you see that video, he was so ecstatic because he met Shaq and Dominique Wilkins and all the rest of these players. And I don't know if this happened, but I really wish that young brother had met this brother. Now, see, some of y'all watching right now, y'all are saying, why would him meet the Asian brother? First of all, this brother here, his name is Mark Tatum. Mark's mother is Vietnamese. His dad is Jamaican. Mark is a brother. Mark attended Cornell University. That's where Alpha Alpha was founded. And I don't know why Mark pledged Kappa. But anyway, Mark played baseball at Cornell. Mark, Kappa Alpha Psi, he's in the fraternity. Mark is the Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer of the NBA. He sits on the board of directors of General Motors. I want to blow y'all away. There are only some 400 NBA jobs, meaning players. Majority of them are black. But guess what? There are more African Americans in the NBA who don't play basketball. There are African Americans who are lawyers, who are doctors, who are trainers, who are in accounting, who deal with stadium development. There are more African Americans who are working in PR, who are working in video, who are working in security. And we can go on and on and on. And I believe what we have to start doing is we have to start letting our young folks know that your aspiration for, if you want to be in the NBA, should not solely be about playing in the NBA. I'm going to go back to Lil Cotton. Lil Cotton got a Division I-A scholarship, Southern Methodist University. In his junior year, he injured his knee. His career was over. Lil Cotton graduated, got his degree. Haven't seen his dad in a few years, not sure what Lil Cotton is doing. But the point I'm making is the small percentage of jobs at the top, meaning those who make the NBA, the number is extremely small. And so we need to be redefining for our young brothers and sisters this notion that if I want to take care of mama and daddy, I can do that without bouncing a ball. And I said to Mark that I believe that the NBA should create a platform called NBA All-Stars off the court. And imagine if the teams and the league are showcasing African Americans in critical positions who are in the NBA, but they don't lace up any sneakers. We aspire to what we see. I think we've got to start showing our kids a different perspective. This brother is the number 2 behind Adam Silver in the NBA. I dare say our kids should be aspiring to do his job and not just that of LeBron. Michael.
Yeah, I agree with you, Roland. I don't know why Mark Tatum plays Kappa Alpha Psi either. But, you know, thinking about this, I jotted a few things down. I think playing in the NBA, because the average career in the NBA is about 5 seasons, it should be you should look at that as an introduction to a whole nother set of businesses, okay? Understanding sports contracts, which means understanding law, understanding the manufacturing of gym shoes and the marketing of gym shoes, understanding the manufacturing and marketing of sports drinks like Gatorade, understanding accounting and finance, broadcast deals. When you broadcast the games either locally or nationally, understanding the money involved in broadcasting. Team ownership is important also. There's only been one African-American majority owner. That was Michael Jordan. Catering services. They're catering.
No, two. Bob, Bob Johnson before Michael Jordan. Go ahead.
Yeah, correct. You're correct.
But guess what? But here's the deal. They are minority owners. There's a brother who's a minority owner with the Boston Celtics. He's an alpha brother. I see him every single year. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Catering services as well. Catering services have contracts for the different teams and different events. Limousine services, transportation services, manufacturing of the basketball jerseys and paraphernalia, all different types of things like this. Season ticket sales, okay? That's a whole nother industry, season ticket sales. And lastly, security services, owning security companies. So being in the NBA as a player should be an introduction to all these other businesses and different streams of income for you to understand and master and see which one you want to get into.
And if Mignon, if we're not talking about those opportunities, and again, I get it. I get when we see the player and we see all of them. But when you start talking about business managers, accountants, lawyers, you look at all LeBron's guys, they're not, I mean, when you talk about Maverick Carter, we start talking about Rich Paul, listen, we can do more than just bounce the basketball. And guess what? NBA careers, a lot of these guys, they're done at 30, 31, 32. The other folks, they're working in the NBA until they're 60 and 70. So, again, we have to expand the view, and we have to show it. And again, I really would love for the NBA and to tell each one of their teams, showcase your team all-stars who don't play on the court, so the kids can see, oh my goodness. I mean, the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks is a sister. You've got presidents of teams. You've got VPs of teams. I knew Chadima Usry when he was CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. There are general managers. There's so many other jobs. We have to expand the horizon for our young people.
We really do. It's, you know, it's funny is that when you showed the video of the young man, yes, I did shed a tear because yes, it was heartbreaking that he was the choice of like sort of gambling what you need and sort of gambling away any sort of security for your family for this big, oftentimes for many people, a pipe dream. But I saw Andre Iguodala in that video, and Andre was my former student at University of Arizona when he was playing there before he was drafted, and he didn't finish college. And I just remember saying to him, I was so angry that he was not finishing college. And I was just like, how dare you not finish your degree? How dare you go off to the NBA? And he's done quite well for himself. He had a robust career, but he's gone on into other businesses. And I mentioned him.
Well, no, wait, hold up. Wait. Other businesses, he also is the interim director of the NBA Players Association.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was thinking about him, and I was like, oh, he parlayed. I mean, he was always
Yes.
He was a very wise man and a great student, right? And he always parlayed that those opportunities in the NBA into something more, right? And those are the types of examples that we should be showing. Yes, on the court, that's fantastic, but what have they done afterward? And those are individuals that could come back to our communities and to help our young people navigate these other spaces that they may not see otherwise. I also think that all of the different types of businesses that were addressed earlier, you know, half these guys in the NBA, if the vast majority of the NBA are Black players, right? So they are the commodity. Can't they just kind of make a negotiation with the teams or with the owners and just say, hey, can we invest back in these Black communities in this way? Can we create some of these programs? You know, they're doing their own work and their own.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, first of all, a ton of players are doing that. I mean, I actually did a whole show on philanthropy at the NBA All-Star Game. But that's the players. I'm purposely moving the players out of this conversation.
Off the field.
Because what often happens is we want to drive things through the players. No, what I want people to see is I want them to see the opportunities that don't be involved with players. I'm telling you, I'm sitting there in the arena, and I'm sitting there, Matt, and I'm looking, and I'm talking to the brothers who do security, and I'm looking at the cats who do transportation. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the brothers and sisters at the HBCU game who are coordinating people. And you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing jobs in the NBA. And it's just a different mindset. I remember I went to a Houston, Texas game. My nephew, Christopher probably wasn't even 4 years old. Chris was like three or four. And we were downstairs with the coaches and the family after the game. And Christopher had a ball. Well, Christopher was so funny, he signed his own ball. And my brother was like, Chris, you ain't supposed to sign your own ball. They're supposed to sign the ball. So we go up to Wade Phillips. And Wade Phillips was the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. And I introduced Chris to Wade Phillips. And Wade goes, well, Chris, what position you want to play? I said, oh, no, Wade. He's not being raised to play. He's being raised to own. And he sort of like looked at me like this way, and I was like, yes, he's being raised to own. And look, my dad didn't mind us playing sports, but he didn't give a damn about sports. Made clear that you could be a millionaire without slamming your head up against something or without bouncing the basketball, and he was correct. But that is so important, and I just think we have to start telling that story, Matt. And it's no different, again, than what you do. It's a whole bunch of players and non-players who need lawyers. And so there are a lot of lawyers in the NBA and in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in fact, you know, a friend of mine from college is Magic Johnson's director of investment. After he graduated from Howard, he went to Stanford Business School, and he's been working with Magic Johnson since we got out of school, so the better part of at least 15 years. And I think your point is well taken. But I think, Roland, that actually we're having these conversations more than I think you realize. I think what it really comes down to is balance. I don't think there's anything wrong with this young man wanting to play in the NBA. It's funny we're having this segment because I thought about all the conversations I had with my father when I was this kid's age about how I was going to go to the NBA. Now, genetics did not give me anything close to that opportunity. But obviously, you know, I had that structure at home where I knew that was not going to be my life. But I don't think there's anything wrong with kids having those dreams. And I think, you know, it's about exposure. So I think the benefit to a segment like this is I didn't know anything about Mark Tatum. He's obviously an incredibly well-accomplished brother. And there are a lot of people out there who might learn about his job and aspire to that job in addition to aspiring to be an NBA player. But there's nothing wrong intrinsically with aspiring to be who you see. And I think it's a matter of balance. As long as kids know all of the opportunities and know not to foreclose any of those opportunities and know the odds, there's nothing wrong with running full speed ahead towards your dreams with the understanding that
that's not. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. There's nothing wrong with that, but it also is a reality of the extremely small percentage who actually get to that level. And what often happens is, unfortunately, is that going back to Gladwell's idea of 10,000 hours, you have these young brothers and sisters, who, especially young brothers, who are putting in thousands of hours working on their skill set on the court, but not putting the same time in off the court. Mark sent me this text here. The head of the NBA security is a brother. The head of the NBA HR is a sister. The head of the league operations is a brother. And the chief medical officer at the NBA is a brother. Those are NBA All-Stars. And so, again, I just think that what we have to do is amplify those folks. I've been talking about me and him sitting down doing a one-on-one. We're going to get it done this year. But we have to be amplified. And I really hope the NBA and the NFL and Major League Baseball and even NHL are amplifying that, because, unfortunately, so many of our folks only think about the athletic way, and there are other ways to do it. And so we need to be exposing them to that information. So, again, just a different thought process for how we're out there. And again, I really make the effort when I'm talking to young people. I'm not killing their dreams, but I am giving them the reality of the small percentage, and I want them, while they're working on how to dribble left and the right hand, I want them working on that, but I want them handling their business in the classroom as well, because you can be a millionaire. You can have a mansion. You can have the Rolex. You can have all the accoutrements that you see and not ever bounce a basketball or throw a football. Matt, Mignon, Michael, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Y'all have a fabulous weekend. As I was supposed to go to L.A. for the golf tournament, but look, I got to get home and get well. Next week, I'm in New York for Susan Taylor's National Cares Mentoring Gala on Thursday. Harry Belafonte's Memorial Service in New York on Friday. We're live streaming both of those, so I need to be in full capacity. So I'm gonna stay home and get healthy. This weekend and just rest and enjoy that. And so I look forward to it. But I'll be in LA next month anyway for the NAACP Image Awards. So it's just, y'all, I tell y'all this all the time, why this show matters. We're talking about things. We're discussing things other folk ain't talking about. I don't like to spend my time talking about no mess and gossip and other stuff. No. We're trying to fulfill. We're trying to empower. We're trying to enlighten. We're trying to educate. We're trying to just feed you stuff that other folk ain't doing. And so your support is invaluable. It is invaluable when you support us. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club. I tell y'all, we're trying to reach 20,000 fans. If they give on average $50 each, that's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. That raises $1 million. That is crucial to what we do every single day. And, you know, I saw some folk, man, at NBA All-Star game. They were like, Roland, I'm a donor, I'm a supporter, and I appreciate every person. The people who have given $1, the people who give $5 and $10. People, I got a check for $750 from somebody. A brother handed me $1,000 in my hand in Indiana because they believe in what we're doing. And so please, y'all, there's nothing. Listen, ain't nobody doing what we doing. The Griot got 2 one-hour shows. There's nobody, not Ebony, not Essence, not Black Enterprise, not Blavity, not News One. None of these people are doing what we do 7 days a week, 5 hours of original programming a day, plus the events and the news conferences and the speeches that we also live stream. So we're doing the work. I'll just tell y'all real quick. Associated Press, when we're grabbing that feed, y'all, that costs us $180,000 a year to be an Associated Press member. $180,000 a year. Vimeo, for us to do with our app, that's $160,000 a year. The costs are real. Send your check money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal or Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel on Amazon News by going to Amazon Fire. You can tell Alexa play news from the Black Star Network. You can see us on Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, Amazon Prime Video. And, of course, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. We end the show every Friday showing the names of all the people who have donated to this show since we launched September 4th, 2018. We value every single one of them. And if you want to get your name on this list, all you got to do is join our Bring the Funk fan club. Check a money order, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, or PayPal. Folks, I'll see y'all Monday. Holla!